Welcome again to It's Possible podcast. We find amazing people who've done amazing things. And here we have somebody with us that has done a lot of things, helping people, developing them. So today we have Robert with us, and I'll let him introduce himself so I don't make any mistake, okay? So Robert, welcome to the show today.
Grand Rising. Thank you.
How did I forget Grand?
I always got to start my intro to greet everybody with the Grand Rising. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I am Robert Stallworth, and I am with Whole Men Experience, and I am so grateful to be here, and thank you for having me on today.
Yes, Robert. No, it's a pleasure to have you here on It's Possible today because I've been waiting for that day. Mm-hmm. Because you remember we spoke, it's been about 3 weeks already, about a month.
I think it has been.
Time goes by fast.
It has, especially when you're working hard and getting it done around.
So, we talked about it, and I heard what you say, man. I got really motivated to have you on the show because I know you can help a lot of people, man.
Well, that's the plan. It's one of those things, Wilkin, where, you really, at some point, you stop living for yourself and you ask yourself, how can I add more value to the world?
Wow.
What more can I do? It's interesting just to share a little brief, backstory about myself. A few years ago, I was blessed enough to be able to position myself where really I had a business, which I still do, that was doing well. And I found myself being able to pay off a lot of debts.
Okay.
One of the biggest expense, of course, for a lot of people was a mortgage, and was able to retire it. And the type of work...
Don't say retire it. You paid off your mortgage. Come on.
I did.
Yeah, okay.
I did. I paid it off. So it was an interesting thing. So I was 45, so it was a few years ago, about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And I went to the beach, and it's so funny because I went to Dominican Republic.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. And so having done that earlier in the year, I was sitting there on the beach, and I was thinking to myself, because what kind of struck my memory and brought it to my attention was I was in the airport, and I was running late. And please don't tell anybody, I was kind of late today. So I got to the airport. One of the reasons I had forgot my passport, because at the time I wasn't accustomed to traveling international. So I had to turn back around and go home. And fortunately, I hadn't gotten too far from the house. But went and grabbed it, got over to the right side of the airport. And I was having this conversation with one of the attendants.
Yeah.
She was checking me in. She's like, hey, what you doing? Like giving me, kind of ribbing me a little bit, asking me what I did. And it was at that moment, although I had was working for myself, I had just started working back in the corporate setting. And in doing that, she kind of asked me, what you do and this, that, and third. And it really kind of dawned on me, Wilkins, like car paid off, other cars just got paid off, the house was paid off, all my credit cards and things were paid off. And I have by the grace of the Creator, I was able to be led to a business opportunity 5 or 6 years prior that allowed me to create wealth and have streaming income, residual income, that whether I start working the business like yesterday or the next day, that money was still coming in and I had no debts.
How does it feel to wake up in the morning and you know that, man, I don't have to pay anybody?
It's so surreal. It really is. And I think it really hit me when I arrived at the Dominican, and maybe I got there on Sunday afternoon, maybe by Tuesday to start the day or Wednesday afternoon, I was walking around and going to my little chair on the beach, looking over into the water. And I thought about, something I wanted to get out of the gift shop. What would I want to get from my first time here in this beautiful,
Yeah.
island? And I was like, well, I gotta make sure I have enough. And it dawned on me, like, make sure you have enough for what? Like, what do you have back there other than your $19, $20 water bill and $120 light bill that would hinder you from having anything? First time in my life that 45 years old and you could essentially do and be and have whatever your income and your finances would allow, and you're not worrying about, oh my goodness, is this gonna put me out? Is this the one decision that's gonna cost me to have to put me out, go down to XYZ and figure out how I'm gonna live out in the woods somewhere? And it was unbelievable.
Wow.
I never would have thought when I got to that spot where I had to almost feel like I was drop kicked and forced into working for myself, because I had a job that my background was in staffing and recruiting.
Okay.
Originally from South Carolina, and the work that brought me over here was staffing and recruiting way back in 2000. And so I continuously kind of did those kinds of work. And when 2008 happened, when the housing market crash took place, a lot of people, a lot of industries that I was doing recruiting and staffing for, it dried up. So when the business isn't there, when the economy isn't there to support more workers, then they don't need recruiters to bring people on, to interview, to do orientations, to do drug screens, all that stuff, to get people ready to go to work. So, it's funny, it's like a domino effect. The cycle impacts one aspect of the world of work, and it's a trickle-down effect. So I had to find something to do. So from that time frame, fortunately, while I had this mindset, and it was the grace of the Most High, I feel like he was like, I had this opportunity to go get my master's degree while I was doing staff and recruiting, which I took advantage of. So it was an 18-month program, got the master's degree. I never did anything with it. I kind of sat on it. But when the market for my industry went down, I got an opportunity to start teaching something that I had in my heart that I really wanted to do, and that was teach education. And I was wanting to teach in the elementary, primary grades. And that was kind of what I was going to do. I was going to be a teacher, have my summers off, because I don't want to work year-round if I don't have to. I find something I can be off in the summer and enjoy the kid in me. And for the strangest thing, I could never seem to pass the teacher certification exam. It was the wildest thing. I think I took it like 2 or 3 times.
Oh, wow.
I never could pass it. And I was like, I don't know what's up with this teacher thing. Like, I could just see myself standing up there smiling in front of kids in the classroom and waiting till May get here so I can get out of here for the summer. So when the market went the way that it did, and I had to find something else to do, so the job laid me off, and then I started teaching school. And funny thing about it, wasn't in the middle school, elementary, or high school. Because I had gotten that master's degree early on, I was able to teach college courses.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And that was really kind of, when I look back, it was much more in line with who I was, what I wanted to do, because I was able to take my time in business and teach business courses. I was human resource representative, and so that is actually the very first class that I taught. It was a human resource management class. Then I was like, well, we only have this one class, and we'll see how you do. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, I wasn't very good.
Wow.
I had the students was trying to help me teach the class and get myself together and develop curriculum and all that good stuff. Fortunately, I had an amazing director to help me. But that one class that I would like, the class was like, I think 9 o'clock in the morning. I would get on the college campus like 9 o'clock, or I'm sorry, 7 o'clock in the morning, just to prep for it. Like that one class, like I'm just putting PowerPoints together and media so I can stream it through the hour and a half, 2 hour class. I can't remember how long it was, and I feel like just having that faithfulness of one thing. And by the time that semester ended, then they said, okay, well, we're going to add a second class, then a third class. I was like, wow, this is like, it wasn't just, a one-trick pony opportunity. This is like something.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be, me, progressing in that area. And I ended up staying there 2 or 3 years, and it was like the raven feeding Elijah. That was my source of income that I needed. And it wasn't necessarily full-time, but it was enough.
Okay.
To get me to where I was. So I attempted to go back into recruiting because crazy thing about it, there was the same company that brought me from South Carolina to Georgia to start recruiting. A group of people, men and women, had started another staffing firm. And when I put in my resume, I didn't realize it, but it was the same person who was my boss at the last place. Reached out and said, is this, I'm like, yeah, it's me. And was like, well, come on in for an interview. And long, short interview. So I left teaching because it was part-time, no insurance, no benefits. Went and reconnected with the very people that brought me here. I'm like, this is kind of serendipity, I guess is the word. This is not a happenstance, it's not coincidence. Unfortunately, I only stayed there about 8 months, but it was enough time for me to really get my my bearings in place. And one thing about it, it was a time where I really needed to get some stabilization because I was in the process and going through a bad spot relationship-wise, and so I really needed some balance. I really needed some stability and some reassurance. So long, short, this is the funny thing about it. So I was married at that time, and unfortunately went through a divorce. And the last week I was on the job, I was standing up in the courtroom on a Thursday going through a divorce. On Friday, the job ended for me.
Oh.
So it was like bam, bam.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this is awesome. My life is really going the way I want it. This is great. So it led me to really took me on a tailspin. And the funny thing about it, I was supposed to be doing a recruitment fair. That's what recruiters do. They go set up colleges and different places, and you do recruiting. So the church that I was attending at the time was doing this massive recruitment fair because, mind you, it was during this time frame where a lot of people were out of work looking for jobs. And so I had agreed to come over and represent my company to help them find some work. So when the job ended, then I no longer represented that company. And I went from being a representative at my own church as a recruitment specialist to standing in line needing a job. So needless to say, it was a very humbling time frame and experience for me. And I felt like the Apostle Paul, on the road to Damascus, like asking, what must I do? And the response was, why do you keep kicking against the goal? Like, I have something I need for you to do. I'm like, well, if you could tell me what it is, we can get down to business because this is not feeling real good right now. So I went to the job fair. I had this suit that I had just bought because the job that I was working on, I was like, I'm going to get this nice suit I saw. Yeah. And I was going to wear that as a recruitment specialist, and I had to put it on to go get my resume dusted off and stand in line. And it was hundreds of people. Yeah. There was a huge church. It was one of what they call a mega church. And a lot of people in line, and here I am, feeling very humble, by having to go through this experience. But I realized that was the stripping that I needed to have for the assignment that was about to come to accept the call that was apparently on my life and what I needed to do. I didn't find the job there. But while I was there, there were some people, there were some sisters in the church that said, did you find anything? I'm like, no, I didn't really find anything. You know, I just went over talking to a police officer, and I'm looking back like I could only imagine me being a police officer. I'm like smiling, letting criminals go, and all kinds of stuff. Like, you good, you good, you know. Just don't steal 25,000 again, you know. Don't knock old ladies over. You all right, get out of here. You know, so I was like, no, I didn't find anything. I was like, what was I thinking? But they were like, well, you know, there's this place at the Goodwill. They're looking for, they're hiring for like, I don't know, some sort of insurance specialist or something like that. Maybe you want to check it out. I'm like, well, you know, no need for me to go home empty-handed. I'll check it out and see what it is. And so it was on my way back to my house. And on the way home, I stopped over there, and it was the same Goodwill literally across the street from where I was working at. And I would go over there and interview people. So I was very familiar with the place. I was very familiar with the person who was, you know, managing the place that day. Like, what are you doing here? I was like, you know, I lost my job, and I heard about, you know, something about insurance specialists or health insurance representative. It's like, yeah, they're not here today. They're going to be back on Tuesday. I was like, okay. But they want us to, you know, start getting some people lined up. So you fill your name out here, and, you know, we'll call you and let you know.
Okay.
And needless to say, long short, that was the moment, that was the opportunity that launched me into entrepreneurship because it was 100% commission. And my job was working in the senior market, helping seniors, those turning 65, those who own disability, might be 35 or 25, get additional medical assistance and support. And it was my job to market the different Medicare plans. And what started off as just thing I'll do turned out to be something that the Father just put his hand on.
Isn't this funny? Because sometimes you're looking for something.
Yes.
You see you're about to get something, and it's like it's snatched away from you, and you get mad.
Yep.
But there is something better that's waiting for, man, when you realize that, how do you feel?
It was so crazy. It was a slow, you know, burn. It was one where I didn't really want to do it. I didn't ask for this. You didn't fulfill, you know, my order the way I had it in my mind. It's supposed to be the next to the dream. You know, what are you doing? Like, didn't you hear me properly? This is what I need from you, Father. And it was just like it felt like it was a scraping almost, Wilkin. It was just it was just like anything that was a part of that old mindset that I had. It was just every time I went out on a sales call, when I would go into that office, it was just fleshing out this experience and in this moment. And I'm like, 100% commission, there's no way. I'm not, at some point, everything is just going to run out. The house is going to leave. I won't even have money to put in a car. I hadn't paid my car. You know, I'm going to be homeless. This is crazy. So at that moment, it was still just what is going on in the moment. I had to end up getting unemployment benefits. Fortunately, the way things went, it was like, by the time I had to get my license, I had to get my insurance license because I didn't have it. Never had to attempt to get any sort of license before. I just only knew about a job.
Okay, yeah.
So I had to study during that time frame after leaving the church and being humbled and going through that, you know, process, the startup of this. You know, the requirement was you got to get your license and you study for the exam. If you pass, then you can come on board and we'll supply you with leads. And so between that being laid off and standing up in the court and ending a relationship and a marriage that, you know, wasn't anticipating, I had to focus on now getting this state license in order to begin again and have this income. So it was like 30, 45 days of just wanting to get my mind and my heart and my spirit in a line to be able to do what I need to do. And if you do it, it's a possibility. You know, anything that is a promise of wealth and benefits and this and that. And unlike the teacher certification, I studied for the insurance exam, and with all that was going on in my world, I passed it on the first try.
Wow. Listen to this.
I'm like, maybe there's a chance. Maybe there's a chance I can live again. And I had a good agency that supported me, and it was kind of a family-owned business. It was small, and they got to know me. I got to know them, and it was some coaching and some training around, hey, this is how you sell health insurance plans. And you know, I still remember the first person that I sold, you know, the next county over from me. I still remember that man, and I still remember going to his house. It was the very first plan. And that plan, you know, by the time, and it was a season, like health insurance for Medicare is like from October to December. Yeah. So I only really had the unemployment benefits, and the unemployment benefits ran out like the first, second week in December. Wow. And then you didn't get paid from anything that you did from October to December until like maybe the end of December, the 1st of January. Oof. But when it ran out, fortunately, Father didn't run out on me. Like nothing got cut off. Nothing was lost. Amen. It was like what I needed, because some of those policies renewed. They paid before January got here. It might have been enough just to put a tank of gas in the car, but it was right on time. Yeah. And it was just like and that's where I feel like the trust factor comes in. Yeah. You have to step out and find out. And so that's what I feel like what I'm called to do and purpose to do from this point forward is to glean from my field experience and help other people realize that there is more than what's in front of you, or maybe what you thought. That's right. Only what you can do. Yeah. So that's a lot. You know, we could just record a movie with everything you just said. Tell me, man. You know, so you know, you had a job, you had a relationship, and then you had to go through divorce, losing your job. Yep. You know, uncertainty of being homeless. Yes. That's crazy. Yep. You know, so to get to the point where you say, you know what, paid off my mortgage. You say retiring, but some people wouldn't understand that. I didn't understand. So you paid it off. Yes, for sure. So no debt, right? Yes. So it takes a certain type of knowledge to do these things. So how were you able to do all that? That's a great question. Yeah. So as I got started in this whole entrepreneurial endeavor and working for myself, it was a situation where money wasn't coming every 2 weeks or every week like it was when I was a kid growing up. And you got your $6.50 an hour job, you got your weekly check. Wasn't even once a month like you do when you work in the education field. It was, you got paid whenever you sold something. Yeah. You know, you eat what you're able to pluck and pick off the vine. And so for me, that was really the best kind of way for me to learn how to be a better steward of money, because I didn't have this mentality that I had a mindset of, well, more will come 2 weeks later. Yeah. You go. You can blow it up. You can blow it. Yeah. You know, Friday you get your money. By next Friday you worry about 2 Fridays, or Friday after that you'll live again. So I had to be very intentional. Yeah. And so it changed. It shifted my mindset and my way of thinking, which is exactly what you have to have as you scale. You can't be on another level with the old mindset that you had before. Say that again. You know what I'm saying? You have to be able to, if you want to go to the next level and be different, you got to do things different. Yeah. And so it's not like something that you learn in school where this is how you handle and manage money. Yeah. This is how you go from, making this amount of money to the next level amount of money. you have to have something or someone. You can learn from mistakes or mentors. And I fortunately, working for this agency, got around people who exposed me to a different way of making money, different way of living and managing the money. So I became very intentional about when I got it in my hand, I utilized it to pay off things that I knew was a necessity, like a car, like a mortgage payment, like a credit card, payment. And so it only got applied to things that mattered to me.
So let me ask you this, because I've always met people who have money problems. It seems like it's not because they don't make enough. Is it something about management, or what do you think about that?
Oh, that's so good. I think it comes down to you really have to be, and then I hate to keep using the word intentional, but you have to have a purpose for money. And if you really don't have the discipline, if you don't really have a vision, you will blow through money. I could have easily, because when the money came, it usually would pay out in a lump sum. Like, it was not uncommon for me to get a lump sum of $15,000, $25,000, $40,000 at one time.
Wow, okay.
And I would have to do something with that money. And so as an entrepreneur, you have to, it's not all your money. That's not pre-tax money. That's money that you have to pay the government. You got to pay IRS back. So you really have to be responsible. And if you're not responsible, you will take that money, think it's all yours, and then you will do and misappropriate it for whatever your heart's whims are. And when it's time to pay the piper, you don't have the money to pay them. So you're really right back where you started, only worse, because not only do you not have this quote-unquote job that's taking the money that you're supposed to be giving to the government.
You have a debt.
You have a debt. You can have a huge debt.
Wow.
And it could be any Joe or Jane or Joe Smo that might be in any profession. You might be a professional athlete. And you buy these expensive toys and gifts to yourself, and not realizing that your career, this moment, this opportunity, it's not promised to you forever. One tweak of an ankle, one, injury, or one, sorry, the economy's gone a certain way, and you stuck.
Wow. So I believe this is what happens. It's not because you make millions of dollars. It takes a certain person mindset to realize these types of things. Because people may be making millions, but they don't know how to manage that money. They blow it up. They think all the money is theirs since it's in their possession. Wow.
Yeah, and I feel like that was a life lesson for me, because I could have easily been a casualty of mismanagement of money. When I first got a large sum of money and it came in, one of the first things that I did, because I remember being 2 or 3 months behind on my Kia Sorento, and I'm like, if all I had was this one vehicle, and this was how I would go, what we say in the insurance industry, run my appointments. And if I lost that car, like, I couldn't get to my appointments to be able to serve and the service the customers that I need in my book of business that I was developing. So the first thing I did was pay my car off.
Okay.
So I think at the time I may have owed, like, I don't know, $7,000 or $8,000, $9,000 or something like that, and I just paid it off. Called them up, asked them how much was it. Good. And I had paid off a car before, but the value of this vehicle, as far as my purpose in life, was much more. Although having a car when you go to somebody else's job is important too, because if you don't live in a place where you can catch the bus, then you stuck like Chuck. So paying that car, because I was going all over Georgia, so I needed that vehicle, and it was like, I'm starting to get this whole thing. When you buy something, it's a lot more enjoyable when you purchase a vehicle or a home or a trip.
Yeah.
And you are not just enjoying it and paying for it at the same time. It's a whole lot more enjoyable when you own it.
Yeah.
And then that's when the fun starts, because you're not having to split between paying somebody and owning something, and you only getting minimal return on something.
That's good.
Yeah.
But one thing, you know how many people are watching this video right now and they have a mortgage? How were you able to pay your mortgage? Well, you don't need to say everything if you don't want to. Hey, pay your fees if you have some coaching. But give them some a little something on, do this and that.
For
or
sure.
3-point whatever, so you can help them out.
For sure. So, it was a 30-year mortgage, and I paid it off in 15.
Okay.
And along the way, there's, the most important thing I would say is by the grace of the Most High. I'm going to just put it out there.
First thing first.
That's where I look to the hills where cometh my help. 'Cause all my help comes from the Creator, from the Most High. And so there were things along the way. I mean, there were things that I really could not necessarily even fathom what happened. I got a letter in the mail one day. I had 2 mortgages on the property. Sometimes when you one mortgage doesn't allow you to finance it, the entire property, you have to get a second mortgage, right? So I got a letter in the mail one day from my second mortgage, and they just said, you know what? We're going to cancel out this debt. And it was like almost like $20,000. I think it was like $19,000.
So what does that mean when they say they want to cancel it out?
So what happened, because it was like 2011, 2012, and the economy was still very soft, and banks were doing what they could to help keep their customers in their homes.
Okay.
That particular administration at the time decided they had policies in place that would give banks the opportunity, the permission, the licensing to help whoever customers, I guess whoever they wanted to. I didn't even solicit any help, but banks follow payments, right? And if they see that you are maybe distressed in any sort of way, whether you are or you're not, they will, start, monitoring, your payment history. And I imagine that that's what happened for me, because I was getting behind at that time. And literally out of the blue, they said, hey, it was Bank of America. And they said, we're gonna cancel the balance on this second mortgage.
So you don't owe it anymore?
You don't owe a thing.
Wow.
Free and clear. You're good.
That's favor.
100%. 100%. And here's the crazy thing about it, Wilkin. Like my church that I told you that I stood up there and was supposed to be presenting as a human resource representative. I ended up standing up in line needing work. I was still going there faithfully twice a week with little or no job.
Okay.
I would go there Wednesday night for Wednesday night midweek service. I was there on Sunday, and it was almost like an hour away. But I knew if I let go of my faith, I literally had nothing.
And that's a principle, I believe. The principle is seek ye first.
Yes, sir.
The kingdom of God and his righteousness.
Come on.
And all of these other things we are looking for will be added.
100.
That's a principle. I'm going to have this in my book.
Well, I know now, even more so, like I was starting to believe then that there was a unique favor. Because in my upbringing, in my history, I don't know of anyone where the bank calls you up.
Yes.
And
I've never
says,
heard something like that.
I'm going to cancel $19,000 worth of something that you owe. And I legit owed it.
You don't pay, they give you overdraft fee.
Right.
Late payment fee. And
All of that. And I literally called them. I'm like, I'm holding this letter in my hand. Like, is this some joke? Like, if I call, y'all going to give me like $20,000 I got to pay on top of this money, you know, for the next 100 years? I'm like, no, Mr. Starwood, that is correct. We send it from you. And it's free and clear. You owe us nothing.
Wow.
And they sent the letter. They sent the cancellation. Mortgage deed was gone. So that left me with a percentage of another mortgage to pay. And so I got involved and I started doing research. Having had that experience, I'm like, okay, what other programs can support me as I'm wanting to dig myself out of this hole that I found myself in? There's a program in the state of Georgia that assists individuals in helping them maintain their homes, and I got involved in that program.
Okay.
I didn't have the fortune of having that mortgage paid. It was like over $100,000 in that plus, but they did help, you know, keep me afloat as I was learning entrepreneurship and the business. So
this program, this program, what do they do?
So what they do, they will help it's almost like a matching program. So you pay what you can and we'll assist by paying a percentage of your mortgage.
Okay.
And I wouldn't have known about it if wisdom hadn't led me to say, I think I just kind of heard something on TV one day as I was sitting at home, you know, praying, figuring out. But it wasn't just in hearing it. It's he who has an ear, let him hear.
Wow. Yes, sir.
See, I could not have heard that and not have known that I had options.
Yeah.
So I heard it, and I believe that it was in my prayer time because I was seeking. And the word says, if you seek, then you will find.
You will find.
If you knock, then the doors will open.
Yes.
And so I remember telling a family member about it. And it was like, man, there's no way. People don't do that around here. I'm like, but you know, faith comes by hearing.
Oh, yes, sir.
And I thought about how when that Bible verse, that passage of scripture where the Messiah, there was a sick little girl, and people were doubting. I think she may have been on her deathbed. She had died. And I remember that the Messiah said, let everybody get out of the room. Because this moment is a faith moment.
Okay.
And I need all the unbelieving believers to get on the other side of that door.
Wow.
Because what I'm about to do in here requires faith.
Faith. Wow.
It requires a miracle moment. And that particular time in my life was the first time where I needed it as an adult man. I needed to, because I had no net under me.
Yeah.
I wasn't generating enough income at that time where I could just go to my every 2-week job and piece it together and maybe go without Applebee's, you know, for a couple weekends and get caught up. Like, it had to happen or it had to happen. So all of these things independently, Bank of America calling me up saying, hey, we doing this. Hearing about this mortgage assistance program. Yeah. My unemployment benefits ending, but I got this entrepreneur opportunity that started generating just enough. Yeah. It wasn't more than enough.
Okay.
It wasn't necessarily, you know, it was enough. There was not enough, and then there's more than enough. There's levels to the game, right?
Yeah.
As they say. So it wasn't that it was maybe at that time not enough, but it was enough to piece things together. Because what the Father Most High was teaching me is that the just gonna live by faith. Yeah. If you're gonna do what I'm calling you to do, what I've set out for your course of action in life, it requires your brain almost to shut off. Your rationale, your thinking about things to cut off, and the faith aspect of you to rise up in you, because things that I'm gonna require of you to do is not gonna make sense.
Let's call this a church program, right?
I think you have a little something to do with that. You calling that in.
You know what? It's like what you just said. It's like the unbelievers, they have to go outside so that those who believe can stay.
For sure.
It seems like there are moments in life where the people who don't believe need to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and I feel like that's where we are right now. Even what we're doing today, there's a clarion call. There's a voice. All these podcasters who are maybe not having a platform that may be deemed no name, right? And there's this army of voices that are rising. That all over the globe. I'm from one place. You're from another place. Your experience may be different than my experience. But your voice resonates in a way that mine can't. And so everybody needs to, I feel like voices operate on a level of frequency. When the Messiah was approached by Mary and Martha to go to the grave of their brother Lazarus, right? He had to go to a tomb that housed their brother who had long since departed from this side of living. And what I've discovered, Wilkins, in studying that passage of scripture, it wasn't just he was like, hey, yo, Lazarus, come on out, man, and wake up. What you doing? When I really started growing in my faith and understanding of the metaphysical and how things are not based on just natural alone, it was not just the Messiah saying, Lazarus, come out. It was the sound of his vocal tone. He spoke in a way that the blood vessels and the sinews and the bones and the breath, the ruach, the life, identified with a voice that was not like anybody else's. And when that voice resonated with that spirit man, in that man, it awakened something in him and brought him back to life to live again.
Man.
You hear what I'm saying? So where we are right now in this space, in this moment, dry bones are coming back together.
Oh,
coming
yes,
back
sir.
to life,
I was just
like
thinking about this right now.
And what you're doing and having this platform and many others that are giving voice and space for voices to have a life, to breathe in the lives of people all over the globe by pointing a camera into the space, that voice is going to be able to operate on a level of a frequency that maybe some other person who has a podcast that may have millions of followers, but their frequency doesn't line up with yours or mine, right? So it's giving so many people, countless people. There are 8 billion people in this world. And my story is unique to me, and it has allowed me to understand that how somebody might resonate with my experience is unique to me. How somebody resonates to another is unique to that person. So this is not like a hustle game where I'm cornering off people and you can't get mine. It's a frequency that permeates in the earth, that when that clarion call is heard from that man or that woman, people are going to come. But ultimately, they're not coming to me. The Bible says, let your light shine so that
they can see
the Father in heaven.
Yes, and glorify the Father in heaven.
Absolutely.
So, one thing, I was born in Haiti.
Yes.
In Haiti, the place where I was born, we didn't have electricity, no TV. I remember the first time I rode on a car. Now, we had a donkey. Well, it was not even our donkey.
Unbelievable.
So, seeing people doing great things, for me, they were some type of angels. It's like people I would never be able to see, right? I couldn't even imagine where they live because it seems like they're some type of different creatures from other places.
Yes, sir.
Now, somebody may be looking at you right now saying that, oh, you're really successful right now, out of debt and everything. They may be thinking, is he a real person? Was he a child? Where was he born or whatever? So could you talk a little bit about your childhood, where you came from and things like that?
Absolutely. And I promise you, I'm flesh and blood like anybody else. And I grew up next door here in Georgia in South Carolina, and born and raised, and moved here over 20 years ago. And kind of felt like, although I had no real proof that there was something, I don't want to use the word necessarily special, but there was something unique about how I impacted others, whether it was with a joke or with a smile or with a laugh. I like to make people laugh, and I enjoyed the space that I'm in. And that always seemed to follow me. And it always just seemed, whether it was, middle school or high school or college,
Okay.
it was just this something. And I definitely didn't necessarily know how, to identify how it really was supposed to be utilized in the world. But I know that there was just some little something that resonated.
Mm-hmm.
And life has a way of kind of like beating you down to
Yeah.
prevent you from really seeing who you really are.
Yep.
And I think that's the adversarial forces that, and you shared something earlier as we were coming on, that it's the authority. So many people don't really realize the authority that they have in this
Yeah.
earth. We are kings and priests unto the Most High.
Yeah.
And He's the King of Kings.
Yes.
And so as kings and priests, the same authority that He operates in from a kingdom experience that we have, we're called to have things on earth as it is in heaven.
In heaven, yes.
Correct. So we're supposed to have dominion on this earth and be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth with the kingdom that's on the inside of us. And when we resonate and when we have that realization that I'm not just here to partake in just this world's way of doing things, this system, this Babylonian system that we find ourselves in, that my particular neck of the woods and my part of what I'm doing, I'm supposed to be establishing kingdom. And when I got here, I found myself doing unique jobs and having things where I would put people to work and have that opportunity. Somebody walked in the door, they didn't have a job. Now I gave them a job, and now they're able to pay their bills. And I saw different things that was given to me, responsibilities that really changed people's lives. I remember a young lady, she wanted to go on a trip somewhere on a women's retreat. And it was my job. I had checks in my hand as a recruiter that you only got paid on a certain day, right? Like most people do. So she called me up and she said, hey, I'm going out of town and I don't necessarily have the funds to enjoy this trip. Can I get my check early? And was able to do that, And so I'm just like, I'm noticing these things. I'm like, man, I wish somebody had given me my check early.
Yeah.
That would be pretty nice. And so just the responsibility and the obligations. And so paying off a home and being able to have that experience again. I brought that point up about sitting on the beach in the Dominican Republic because it was something that sitting there realizing what had transpired, because the programs I'm part of, it still left me with a whole lot to pay for that mortgage. But the grace of the Father gave me the resources, the customers that I had to serve, and the mindset and the focus, and every dime that I made, I would pay off not only the mortgage amount for that month, but I would double up on the mortgage payment. And every time I would get more money, I would do the same thing, and I would watch the mortgage debt go down until it came down to nothing. And then another time, as I was getting closer to paying it off, my business, I stopped working for that agency that I started off with, the health insurance, when I first started. And I learned somebody helped me develop starting my own business. The same thing I was doing working for this agency. A moment came when they said, okay, you fulfilled your 5-year obligation to us. You can continue to work with us or you can go out on your own. And it was so wow. I'm like, I was making enough money at that time where I could, they could still, source leads for me, but I was able to, by the grace, be able to market areas that I was able to generate leads and sales outside of this agency. And so I said, you know what? I'll still let the customers that, I've gotten through you all here get paid the percentage that you all get off of it. And but at this point, everything now comes to me. Every new customer that I write, I get the whole commission.
Yeah, wow. All right. So, yes, I mean, we could spend about a few hours talking.
Sure.
Now, I know you help people develop themselves. And this is what you feel is your calling.
Yes.
To develop people, to be a voice of hope, where you speak to show people that it's possible for them to realize their goals and dreams. Now, do you have a special settings for you to do that, or how do you help people in this type of way?
Yeah, so, as I've gotten into this place in my life where I realized that, it is possible, that I have some proof that, you can do it, that if you seek, you shall find, that if you seek ye first the kingdom, then all these things will be added unto you.
Yeah.
It's real, and that you can manifest the kingdom in your life. So I don't want to be a hoarder and not give other people the opportunity to have the experiences that I've had, that I'm having right now. And so, yes, I've taking on the call and the challenge and the responsibility of leading other people into finding fulfillment by finding their purpose. So been able to start now, just really launching this opportunity this moment to get into some coaching and some consulting, and being able to help train and lead other people, because that's really, I think we go through experiences in life to be able to really help the next person.
My question was there a time in your life where you didn't know what you were supposed to do?
For sure. And it was very frustrating. It was, I was working on a job when the whole, '08 situation, the housing market and economy tanked, and I had to get a job working at a retail box chain store, working crazy shifts and hours. And it was almost, I went through a bout of depression where it just was not good. But it was in that moment where he was starting to change me, because I couldn't change the situation myself.
Yeah.
He only, the Father, the Creator, could do it for me. And I had the opportunity to either consider fighting or flight. And if I was gonna fight, then this was the place I was gonna have to take my stand.
That's right.
That was when the reality of more set in, that this was not all there was to it, and that it was possible, but it was definitely during that time frame where I was very miserable, and I felt like I was alone, and just really had to have more dependence, total dependence on the Most High to help me navigate through that time. And it was a long season, because I went from there and went to the last place I did recruiting for, getting laid off and not knowing how that was going to transpire, starting into this entrepreneur endeavor that really wasn't paying all of my bills, but it was enough. It wasn't more than enough, but it was just enough. So it was a long, stretch of time.
Yeah, but one thing I believe is based on what you just said here, our life is like a seed. Before we flourish, we become tree, we need to go in a dark place.
Yes.
In that dark place, you feel that you're alone. That's the moment of depression, that you only depend on God because no one else can see you.
Say that, yes. So true. So true. During that time frame, I thought about Joseph. And
Okay.
he had these visions that he was told, and that, you know, his father had was hearing that, hey, you know, you and my brothers are gonna bow down to me. And his father's like, wait, what? You know, and the brothers was like, we gotta get this guy out of here because he's talking crazy. And being tossed into a dungeon, I could so relate during that time frame in my life. I'm like, you know, marriage is crumbling, the job and the career is not what I wanted. What in the world is going on? And and when Joseph was in that confined place, you know, he was even there operating in his gift. And he could not have. He could have just folded his arms. But because he didn't forget the Most High, you know, he got promoted even in a hard place, in a tough place. And, you know, serving there, serve where you're at. Serve where, you know, even though it feels uncomfortable, even though it's not where you desire to be, it may be a dark season in your life, but if you show yourself faithful and if you don't forget, you can come out on the other side of it.
It requires the dark season
Yes.
to flourish.
It does. I don't know anybody who hadn't experienced triumph without tragedy.
Yeah.
You know, daylight without it being midnight.
Yeah.
Even the Messiah, as he was on that cross, on that tree being hung and being crucified, nobody would have imagined, unless you knew prophecy, that he was going to be put into a tomb, but on the third day he was going to rise again.
Wow.
And as a result of that seed dying, it died if it was to die alone. But when it is planted, it goes forth and it bears much fruit, and fruit that shall remain. And that's the same indicator that we are. We are seed. And when we're in these dark places and these experiences, these moments that we're having, you know, if we allow ourselves to die to us, to our grandiose plans and desires that we have, and get in alignment with the purpose that the Creator and the Father has for us, you know, Joseph was no different.
Yeah.
You know, yes, the vision was going to come, but it was for an appointed time.
Exactly.
And a lot of times we give up, or we do things that we deviate, and it takes either never going to happen or it takes so much longer to happen because we don't surrender. We don't die to self.
That's true. That's true. Man, I learned so much today, man. I learned so much. You know what? So in your coaching business, if someone would like to work with you, how can they do that?
Absolutely. So as I begin, you can hit me up on Instagram at Rob Stallworth and connect with me there. And I'm literally in the process of building out, as we speak right now, an opportunity and getting everything in place. And I'm super excited to be working with men and women who, you know, you feel like right now you are at a place where you don't really know whether you need to go left or right, or what are you doing right now. I want to encourage you to hit me up and let's work together. And what I do, Wilkins, is I have a plan in place that I'm helping you overcome barriers and helping with mindsets that will allow you to navigate and overcome and identify what might be keeping you from finding fulfillment and your purpose in life.
Yes, yes. No, this is really amazing, because I know many people going through life not knowing what to do.
Absolutely.
Or they don't know what the next step is, or they are lost. They have a lot of young kids, young adults. They are lost and they need some direction.
Yeah.
And this is so valuable what you're doing, you know.
It impacts every aspect of life,
Yeah.
whether you're single or married or just living in the world. When you don't know what your purpose is, you just operating on a frequency and a vibration that is counter to the real you. It's very frustrating. It's very tiresome.
Yeah.
And you find yourself just living a life that's subpar and less than the life that you want to have. And I guess that's why I've been given this new assignment to help others, because I know that feeling. And so many people are just doing stuff that's really not the highest level of purpose and fulfillment that they were called to have. And some don't even know it. They just think that I'm doing it, but they've numbed themselves to the reality of what they could do. And those miracle key moments that I experienced in my life, they're like, what are you talking about? There's no way. But I'm like, yes, way. It absolutely is possible.
It is possible.
For sure.
Yes, sir. Well, everyone, just reach out to Robert, because this moment we just spent here, it's really beneficial. You know, thank you so much for being on the show today.
You're welcome.
Now, if you were to leave the people with a word, what would it be?
I would say, don't give up. Don't lose hope.
Okay.
It's 100% possible. The Father, Creator, He's no respecter of persons. Trust me, I'm the least of the brethren. If He can do it for me, if He can help create a roadmap and a guide for my life, He can most certainly do it for you. And let's connect. Let's work together, and let's see what we can do to get you to where you need to be. And I'm excited to do that. But ultimately, just keep looking up. Seek and you shall find.
Yeah.
I think if you do that, the keys to the kingdom will open up, and you will be released in your purpose and find fulfillment.
Yeah, that's amazing. One thing I highlight in you too is you're not like this type of gurus that say, you know what, come to me and I'll resolve your problems. You're really humble to the level of what you're doing.
Well, I know it's not me. I know if it had not been the Most High on my side, where would I be? So I can't take credit as if I'm this architect of something nobody in the world has ever heard of, and you come to me and so I can make a gazillion dollars. No, it's a gift. It's like the lost pearl. It's like the lost coin. When you find it, it's more valuable than anything. And I feel like that I've come across something, and it's only through the Creator that He's allowed me to find it. So when other people tell me about who the Creator is, what He looks like, how He does what He does, I'm going to say, that's fine, but I'll match your life against mine any day of the week. And if you feel like you have joy that's unspeakable, if you feel like you have a bountiful abundance of blessing that overflows without any limitations, then cool, awesome. But I know where my help comes from, and I know what He's done for me. And I know that beyond the shadow of a doubt that if He's done it for me,
He can do it for you.
He can do it for anybody who's willing.
Thank you so much, man.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch the video today. I've learned a lot. I know you're going to have some questions for Robert. So if you have questions, just go ahead and leave them in the comment, and I'll bring him back. I'm not going to answer the questions for him. I'll bring him back to the show so he can answer your questions. Robert, man, thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it was a pleasure,
Appreciate
man.